Okay, today is turning out to be kind of an exciting and very prophetically significant day. Uh, of course, as you all know, the news today is that Israel and the United States has jointly attacked Iran, and it seems very clear that the goal here is to is regime change, and that's a good thing. Um, I kind of want to point out and take a little bit of a dive into the prophetic history and the significance of what's going on over there concerning Israel and the church. And as far as the moves of God and revivals and what's happening in the church around the world, um, Israel is a major signpost. So we can go back to Israel. Actually, before they became a nation, even. And I have some notes here. 30,000 Jewish immigrants went back into Israel from Eastern Europe, and that was right at the late 1800s up until 1903. And we know then that there was the Welsh revival, and then that led to the Azusa Street revival, and that basically led to the Pentecostal charismatic movement that's here today. So going back to that small group of Jewish immigrants going back into the land, we see the start of the modern charismatic movement. I know that there's some other, the Quakers and there were some different people. There's some different smaller moves of God before that. But when the Jews started coming back into the land, boom, there was this, the charismatic movement started. And today there's over 500,000 Assembly of God churches around the world, and of course many others that are what we'd call full gospel or charismatic, experiencing the baptism of the Holy Spirit and operating the gifts of Spirit and prophecy and healing. The next Israel, when Israel became a nation again, and that was 1947, 1948, and there after World War II, Israel became a nation again. And that was when Billy Graham started, like his ministry took off. There was the healing revival, latter rain movement. So when Israel, there was like Oral Roberts. So latter rain movement, Billy Graham, I think, at that time, he had a huge like revival. He had like multiple meetings in Los Angeles. The latter rain movement. But anyway, we've seen like a huge move of God attached to Israel becoming a nation again. And then again, another one that was just very significant was the 1967 Six-Day War, when Jerusalem became, when they took Jerusalem again, in the Six-Day War, 1967, Well, there's some very significant, that's the, right after that, 68, the late 60s and early 70s, that was the Jesus people, the hippies, the hippie revival, the Jesus people revival. And that was Reinhard Bonnke first trip to Africa, 1967, right? YWAM started. That's like a huge, huge thing. Jesus people revival, Catholic charismatic movement. So there's the reason I'm going over this is there's a really big correlation between the moves of God in the church and around the world and what's happening in Israel in the land and people coming back to Israel. So there's this correlation. What's happening here in Israel and what started when when that war started with the when the terrorists in Gaza came out and attacked, really I'm looking at this and it's like the fall of Islam. Like it's so I'm looking at this and I've been a Christian long enough to been walking with the Lord long enough and listening to a lot of different leaders and people, and they used to they're always talking about like what a big threat Islam is and stuff like that, and we're literally watching the end of Islam as far as like Iran's like the last significant like now with the fall of Iran, with Iran falling, there's no more like militant nation like trying to like do the Islamic terror thing. It's like the fall of it's like the fall of Islam. And I'm thinking about like all the people that were prophesying, or predicting about how destructive and dangerous Islam is, and it's like we're literally watching Islam become like a non-thing as far as it being, having like significant power in the world today. It's like going away. So that's interesting because it's another one of them where you can go back to your bookshelf and get a lot of these prophetic prediction books, and read them and go, boy, that didn't age well, and throw them in the garbage. So yeah, it's like, and of course we know that, but it's like, if you're a Muslim, if you're a practitioner of Islam, I hope you can finally see that you that your God has no power, that that Allah is Satan and his prophet Muhammad was just a loser child molester. So yeah, and I decided to put on my prayer shawl today. I actually went to the Lord had me go to a what do you call it? A synagogue this morning, a Messianic synagogue this morning. I thought about visiting it for a while, but the Lord had me go there this morning. So I went to, it's Saturday. So, and it was funny because it felt like a Sunday morning service, but it was a Jewish synagogue. So they do it on Saturday. But the other thing that's really significant is that Purim, the Feast of Purim, is in 2 days. And of course, if you know about Purim and Esther and Haman, and so you see like the enemy of Israel, like Haman being destroyed now. You see that happening with the leadership in Iran. And the thing about that is that the vast majority of the people in Iran don't want anything to do with this radical Muslim terroristic government that they've been under, for many years. So anyway, I just wanted to, I definitely wanted to come on and comment, because it's like, uh, every Christian should be very excited about this. This is very exciting because this means, and I think this this season of war that we've been in, and I know it was prophesied too. I heard a number of prophecies that this Trump administration would be a war administration, that you know, and that, you know, I know people were prophesying that. I was kind of hoping it wouldn't, but now we're kind of like seeing how it's coming to play out. It's like very fascinating that like the world we're in right now is like changing so fast. And just as far as like the power structure and stuff, like there's so much stuff, there's like so much like happening. You know, we see with like the Epstein stuff, and you know, like so much stuff is being exposed, and there's just you know, a lot of shaking, and a lot of stuff that was just, that we thought was immovable. You know, a lot of the deep state players just being like totally exposed. You know, these very corrupt, wicked people. You know, these Satanists, and so like the servants of Satan in like the deep state. You know, you got like Bill Gates, you know, and Jeffrey Epstein, and like a lot of these people around them, you know, that were like Bill Gates, like, you know, they did the COVID scamdemic, you know, they planned and perpetrated that whole thing. And now you see the perpetrators behind that, like Bill Gates, you know, being exposed, you know, as running around with Epstein and having sex with children and stuff. And so there's just a lot of really fascinating stuff going on. But and also like now it's like the fall of Islam, right? So like Islam is being like they have no state anymore. There's no state that's really, and I mean like the kind of the radical warring side of that, you know, because obviously there are Muslim countries like, what's the other one where Mecca is there? Saudi Arabia. You know, but they don't want anything to do with war. You know, they just want to make they just want to be very wealthy on their oil and build big towers. You know, Dubai and anyway, you know, like most of those countries don't want war. They just want to make a bunch of money on their oil and stuff. So, but it's interesting because Iran was really the one who was like, they had these different proxies that they were, you know, without Iran, there's really no longer any significant terroristic structure, you know, trying to attack Israel. So yeah, this is very significant. So, you know, and it started with, you know, Gaza, you know, and them, you know, the terrorist group in Gaza, like attacking Israel, you know, and you know, and now this is just, it's led to their, you know, their destruction and downfall. So this is very interesting. It's very exciting to see, what God is doing, and it's definitely not a coincidence that we're 2 days away from the Feast of Purim. So yeah, I'm expecting to see some very significant, you know, some big stuff happening. I don't exactly know. You know, a lot of times people throw the revival term around a lot, but I'm very excited to see what's happening, you know, what the Holy Spirit, you know, is doing. And I've heard people say that we've kind of been in a season of, you know, there's been a lot of pressing in, and people, you know, like we haven't seen the miracle signs and wonders, you know, like we should have. Like there's been a lot of kind of pressing in, you know, like during like after Israel became a nation again, you know, and you had like Oral Roberts and A.A. Allen and what's her name? Catherine Kuhlman, and there's been, you know, these Oral Roberts, you had like this, and then you had Billy Graham. And so anyway, but there's these moves of, and then in 67, you had the Jesus People revival, and you had, what came out of that is there was a very significant, there's some big moves of God, some big churches established, and leaders, the Vineyard movement and Calvary Chapels and the Vineyard movement came out of the hippie revival. I'm not doing any, I didn't take, I just, with the news this morning, I didn't take a whole lot of time to like research this. I kind of wanted to comment and just kind of shoot from the hip with what I see happening here on the news, because this is really exciting. So definitely this is a good segue into preaching the gospel, because this is Bible prophecy. This is being coming to pass. And what's fascinating is just since Israel, like today, what we are seeing is like the end of those. Israel became a nation in 48, and and immediately they were at war with their neighbors. And today we see finally it's like they're the end of any like significant enemies of Israel falling. It's like the enemies of Israel are melting like wax before them. And so it's just like the fall of, it's like, wow, okay, this is amazing. We are, I think maybe we are coming into this last days revival, where God is going to pour out his Spirit on all flesh. And my theory about the third temple is, I don't think the third temple is a good thing we don't Jesus was the final sacrifice, but I can see now how it comes to pass, because Islam is becoming totally irrelevant. Like, so many people are coming to salvation in Jesus. There's a huge church in Iran. Iran has a big church. There's a lot of Christians in Iran, and a lot of people in the Islamic nations are coming to faith in Jesus. They're coming to recognize, Yeshua, Jesus, as their Messiah. So I can see how the Dome of the Rock, that mosque can go, at this point now, it could be just, Islam has no more power anymore. I mean, the Jews could just bulldoze that thing right off and build their third temple, and they can't do anything about it. And I think the Dome of the Rock is becoming, my part of my prediction is that because so many of the Muslims are coming to Christ, mosques become irrelevant. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm going to call this video The Fall of Islam. And what's so funny about it is, like, so many of the teachers and preachers have been teaching about how bad and destructive Islam is, and now it's almost becoming irrelevant. So, and I'll say on top of that too, of course, you got to understand that a lot of what has been blamed on Islam wasn't Islam; it was deep state. Like 9/11 was not that was a deep state false flag operation. That was like, CIA, Mossad, I don't, that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, it's hopefully anybody who's a practitioner of Islam can recognize today that that Islam is not the correct religion, that their God is a defeated foe named Lucifer, and their prophet was a pedophile. So I don't know what else. I think I'm just gonna kind of leave this here. We're kind of be watching the news, but really what I think is this is really a signal. Like, I'm expecting some major things to be happening in the church, in the spirit. as far as, and we've seen, some of the stuff, some of the shaking happening in the church too, as far as some of the people, like the Lord there's been some cleansing going on, people that were, false prophets being exposed and removed in the church. So, Mike Bickle and Sean Bowles, tares, I would call them, like the, false ones. And so that's a good thing for those for the counterfeits to be removed. So it's very interesting. So yeah, Trump is succeeding with MAGA. The other thing is that, I will bless the Abrahamic covenant. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you, saith the Lord. So we can expect a time of prosperity and blessing to come upon, because the U.S., this couldn't happen without the United States military coming in. So I expect a blessing. I expect a significant blessing. And I could even go into, a lot of people have been speaking about and teaching about the wealth of the unjust being laid up for the just. But I think maybe I might do that as a separate teaching, and go into some stuff that the Lord showed me about that years ago. But yeah, it's very exciting. See, Jesus is returning. So we're not expecting the end of the world. We're expecting the millennial reign. So, yeah, this is very exciting from a Christian biblical prophetic standpoint. Watching this happen, I'm very much expecting just a massive outpouring of the Holy Spirit. I'm expecting a massive move in the area of evangelism and missionary work and stuff. The church here is with the fall of Islam, as far as it being any type of a threat to Israel or anybody else, is happening right now. So, and we haven't seen, that's the first time since at all, since Israel has come back into their land now, that they're like the enemies of Israel have been turned over to them. They're completely done. So I'm expecting just really amazing stuff to be just busting forth in the church today. So, all right, I'm just going to sign off. God bless you. Bye.